Well, joining us now here in person at Right Toyota, former Coyotes assistant coach for over 20 years, Steve Peters, my neighbor. And Steve, first, thanks for coming down. And can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Thursday's recycling day. Can you bring in my my garbage can?
It is
Because I'm not going to get
unbelievable.
home until late, and I don't want to get. I've gotten written up so many times.
It's your recycling and your dog.
Okay,
The dog
I'm so
around the
glad
neighborhood.
you went there, Steve. I've heard for about 8 years
Oh, my
now
gosh.
about the dogs,
dog.
and I've met the dogs, and I love they're great. They're so much fun. Apparently, they bark a little bit.
Well,
A little bit?
we're down to one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Get it.
Unfortunately. Just
I
Guinness.
know.
But he does know how to unlock the gate. So once in a while, as a good neighbor, we're corralling the dog and putting him back in Rock's yard because he does have an unbelievably busy schedule. Busy guy.
Yes.
Okay, if you're going to go there,
No, it's true.
this is a guy that walks his little tiny little cat around the neighborhood.
You got a mall cat?
Okay, it's not a cat, but it's a little tiny dog. And it's my wife's, but you're right. I have a little more free time now, so I'm out walking the dog a lot, trying to stay healthy.
You're catching up for 23 years
I know.
of working for the Yotes.
I tell you what, I have gained, I shouldn't say this. The stress level has gone down so much. I've gained weight. I'm healthier than I've ever been. No more pain in my neck. Hey, I'd rather be working.
You kind of
Yeah,
like
it
this.
This is okay.
Well,
Take a deep breath and relax.
We got you here, and I want to get your thoughts. The hockey season underway yesterday, and just from what you saw in some of the games that were on last night, the style of play. Where is it here? Here in January.
Well, you know what? For a hockey fan, this is exciting because what you're going to see this year, and we'll talk about the divisions a little more, but you're going to see rivalries really play out here. You're going to see teams that play each other 8 to 10 times in a season, and that familiarity is going to breed some contempt, and there's going to be some unbelievable rivalries, especially in the Coyotes division.
And I think it might feel like a sprint. Remember how baseball felt last year?
yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
60 games.
It's going to
This is
feel like
56.
it's going to feel like a sprint. Like every game means just a little bit more.
And what they didn't get a preseason this year.
Yeah.
And in sports, you need that to jumble your lines, or what do you have? And every team goes into a training camp. This is our top line. Well, you play 2 or 3 training camp games, and that changes.
Yeah.
You don't have that. So I think, for teams like the Coyotes, they made a lot of changes. And they haven't played. They haven't had a chance to work their power play or penalty kill live. It's going to be a challenge. But it's league-wide. It's a challenge to me.
So, Steve, when you look at no preseason games, is there a number from your experience that you can put on and say, okay, through 10 games, you know what you got? When will you know what you got? This is unprecedented,
Yeah,
not having
what
any
you have or what
exhibition
you don't
preseason.
have.
It is 10, and we always look at that 10-game mark as a big deal, but 10 games last year in an 82-game season is 10% of the season. 10 games this year is 20% of your season.
Yeah.
So you better find out quick what you have and what you don't have. And it really, you watched the games last night, and you saw teams that are highly skilled teams, and what comes last in these things is defense and penalty killing and the things that require more structure. Guys spend their summer, and we call it summer hockey for a reason. They have fun. They're looking to score goals. No one's hitting, no one's defending. And when you start a season that quickly, defense they're not gelling yet as a team defense. And so this games last night, there were some structure plays. It was wild. You're going to see some 5-3, some 7-5 games. I don't think that's going to be uncommon in these first few days.
So I don't want to jump to the Coyotes. We'll dive into that, but defense has been is one of the areas that they've been strong.
Sure.
So this could be a blessing.
Absolutely. And I think you see teams, from the goaltending out, that the Coyotes have prided themselves on defense.
Yeah.
Rick Tocchet, it's been part of their mantra. That's how we're going to win. And I think what you'll see in this early 5 games to start, whoever finds that system play in their defense and their goaltending quickest will get out to that lead. And you cannot get behind. You can't start 1-4, 1-5, 1-6. You can't. There's no way to battle back, especially every game you play is within your division. So you're going head-to-head with the Kings, the Ducks, the Sharks every single night. That's 2 points you're not getting. When you played Boston in the East and you lost, okay, you lost 2 points to an Eastern team, and it didn't affect your standings as much. Literally every game is in your division. Those games are more important every single night. So I think whoever gets off to the quickest start has the best chance.
Do you see closer races with these teams playing each other so many amount of time versus going to another division and getting a couple, 2-3 wins here? When you play each other, more competitive, tighter, that they will be closer races toward the end of the year.
I think so, or you're going to see this. It really separate the cream rise to the top, and there's teams that you just struggle against, and I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter where they are in the standings when you play each other. You struggle with that team. Example: the Coyotes last year in the Minnesota Wild. It was a team that the Coyotes couldn't beat. It didn't matter who was injured, who was playing, if it was home or road. The Coyotes just struggled against the Minnesota Wild. So I think you'll see that league-wide. There's teams that just you have problems with, and if you're playing them 10 times, boy, you can really get behind in a hurry. But I think what you're going to see is some really good rivalries. Like the New York teams are going to play each other 8 times. Mm-hmm. So look at the travel that the differences are going to be this year. The Coyotes, who traditionally travel more than any team in the league, because they got to go to the East Coast 6 times, they have 4 or 5 of their teams within an hour.
And on top of that, Steve, with all these teams, to your point, playing each other every other, say you go into New York, you're there 4 days because you're going to play 3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to help as far as competition or not flying and getting that rest.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you're going to see with the schedule this year, you're playing those 8 teams. There's never going to be a situation where you play L.A. tonight and you travel and play Anaheim tomorrow.
Yes.
They're trying to limit, with COVID, they're trying to limit the number of hotels and airplane rides that you take. So when you go to a city, you're staying there for a few days, and it shows up right away for the Coyotes playing Vegas twice next week, and they'll stay in Vegas for a few days. So their travel is so much easier this year than it was a year ago, and hopefully that helps keep them fresh, keeps them off the injury list.
And protected.
Correct, and makes for a better
season.
Speaking
of COVID, I was listening to NHL Network this morning, and they were discussing when trades start hitting. And if you're going to make a trade with a team in Canada, they have to wait 14 days in quarantine. So you got to kind of forecast your schedule. Why would you want to make a trade?
Days?
Yeah, and I think this is what you saw for one of the reasons the season is starting so late. All of these logistical things, and most of those teams in Canada have their American League teams in the United States. So if you get an injury, and Edmonton's team's in California, I need to call up a kid. He can't wait 14 days to play.
Yeah.
He's got to play.
Yeah.
So I think that it took the league – they were hoping to start in December.
Yeah.
But it just took so long to get these logistics and these details out so you could – everybody's got a taxi squad now, so you can fill in those roles. And you've seen it in Dallas. They have 17 players out with COVID right now.
17.
And you've seen it in college football. You've seen it in basketball. You've seen it in football. Baseball. It's going to happen in hockey.
A bizarre offseason. You got a new general manager. You only had 4 selections in the draft. And one, if you remember the one – they selected the one kid, and he had a little bit of a background. They didn't do the background check on him and had to kind of go the other way there. And now you go into this season, shortened season, 56 games, a newly aligned divisions, and the expectations, I don't know if they're that high, guys, because we don't know a lot about this team, in my opinion. And we have Steve Peters with us, formerly the Coyotes for 23 years, and he's joining us here at Wright Toyota. When you look at this offseason, and, sadly you were part of this offseason, but let's stick with the ice right now. I mean, we know the ownership, and we can go crazy on that. But who would you say is the biggest loss that they had?
Well, it's hard.
Other than yourself.
Yeah, well, of course.
Absolutely, Steve Peters.
It is. It's hard because when you look at teams, and you've got 2 things going on in the league this year. You got teams that are getting younger and faster, and they're getting rid of their older, more experienced players. So they're saying, "Oh, we're better because we're younger and faster." Well, those experienced players have to go somewhere, and the teams that pick those guys up say, "Well, we're better because we're older and more experienced." So, I think for the Coyotes team, what you're looking at is they lost some of that experience. I mean, you're looking at players like Derek Stepan, Brad Richardson, Carl Soderberg. They're veteran NHL players. Now, granted, they're getting older, slower, and Rick Tocchet styles. Let's play fast. But you're also looking at players that know how to play the game. I mean, Derek Stepan, night in and night out, was a guy that we could rely on in 200 feet of ice to make offensive and defensive plays. So I think he'll be missed.
Yeah. He went to Ottawa, for those of you that were curious where he went.
And I think, but on the flip side, the guys that are replacing him are guys that are bringing some juice. I mean, they have like Drake Caggiula. He's a guy that can play all over the ice, plays hard. He actually plays a little bit bigger than his body allows sometimes, so he's going to be fun to watch. So I think that what they sacrificed on one end, they're going to try to make up with speed and excitement.
Steve, what is it you're seeing with the young guys coming up? They've got this skill and talent. Is it coming from they're starting at a younger age, or they're being more incorporated? I mean, you saw it every day, and you just kind of go, wow. So there's got to be a happy medium in there experience, speed, talent, but why are they so much more talented?
You know, I think it's the trend of where the game is going now. I mean, you don't see the jarring hits and the clutching and grabbing like you did, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s. The style of play has changed so much. So everything is reliant on speed and speed. So these kids spend so much time skating. And you know what? YouTube and Snapchat and all these things where you watch, did you see that guy's goal? Did you see what he did?
Yeah.
So guys are getting more creative with their stick play and how to handle the puck. And I think if you get that at a young age, when you get into the game, you've got a much higher skill level. So you're seeing very exciting players in the league today.
Steve, with that said, who are 2 or 3 of the young guys on this team that have that type of speed?
Well, with this team, it's interesting, and it's a time we're talking about young guys, and you look at a guy like Clayton Keller.
Yep.
Clayton Keller's not a young guy anymore. Like this is a time for Clayton Keller now.
Big year.
That young guy tag's got to go away now. He's a 3-year vet, just coming into his 4th season. He needs to take a step and step forward. I mean, the speed on this team, it's not necessarily they got really fast guys. They play a fast team game. They move the puck up quickly. They get from the defense to the offensive zone quickly as a group, more so than they have really quick guys. And I think the addition we talked about Drake Kajula, and Derek Brassard's going to be interesting because Derek Brassard's a player that they just added recently. I mean, he brings some of that. He's on the verge of 900 games in the league, so he's an experienced player, and he can play all positions. He played most of his career at center ice. They've moved him to the wing, but tonight you're going to see him play in the middle again. He's one I'm really excited to see play and see how he fits in with a Rick Tocchet-style game because he's gritty, he can get the puck up the ice, and he's an experienced, good NHL player. I'm excited to see him.
How about Barrett Hayton? A lot of talk about him. What are your thoughts on him?
Barrett came in with really high expectations, and I think that's hard for a kid when you get drafted so high and you come in with that high ceiling. He's a very cerebral, can't you say the word? He's a bright kid. And he knows the game really well. He's never going to be a player that's going to shock your socks off. Like he's going to go, oh, wow. He's going to do things right. He's going to distribute the puck. He's going to make people around him better. He'll make good plays, and he'll make smart plays. I think you'll develop to see him into a penalty killer. He's smart enough to do that. I think he's going to be a guy that Rick Tocchet's going to respond and need in the defensive zone late in the game. He's going to play in all situations.
We had talk on yesterday. He talked about they did the charts. They did all that they were lack of scoring from the slots.
Yeah.
He said, we got to get there. He said, we absolutely have to get there. So is that going to be a system change, a philosophy change? What's that going to be to get within range to make these scores, to restrict this scoring up?
It's not a philosophy change. Rick Tocchet's always preached that since he's been here. It's got to be the players to get there. And one guy that we thought as of early this morning was not going to play tonight was Lawson Krause. And as I talked to Coyote fans, one guy up front I want him to watch this season is Lawson Krause. I think he is going to go from a guy that's up and down the wing to a guy that's really going to find the next level this year. He's big. He's strong.
Hope so.
He can find the net. He's one of those guys that's going to be able to find that area in front of the net. And I think his game is going to take leaps and bounds in the offensive side because he has that size to get to the net. And I think for them, they have to get that mindset to get to the net this year.
And we talk about, the 20 goals a year type player. Connor Garland, no one expected that last year. He had a great year. Is it a Dvorak? Who is it that obviously Keller? This team to have some success probably needs 3 of those type players, right? Because there's no superstar. Maybe Phil Kessel could maybe come back to where he was when he was with Pittsburgh.
I think Phil Kessel is going to be a guy that's going to contribute most on the power play. You're going to see him get those specialty team goals. Yeah. The guy they really need to pick up the offense this year is Nick Schmaltz. I know he led the team in points last year, but he had injuries that kept him away from the playoffs, and so you really didn't get to see what he could add in that kind of an atmosphere.
Okay.
Pure skill, Nick Schmaltz is a game breaker. Like he can skate.
Is he a superstar?
I don't know if I'd put him in the superstar category.
Can he be?
He's an elite
when I
player.
say that, can he be that superstar?
He's a guy that can lead this team in points.
Okay.
A superstar, that's a tough moniker for a kid to get right now.
Steve, one thing we talk about a lot, is an identity.
Yeah.
Okay, like every team, like the Diamondbacks have failed to have that identity with that particular player or two. Suns, they now do with Booker, and Cardinals, of course, with now Hopkins and Murray. The Yotes, since Shane Doan and JR and Todd, and Kachuk, there hasn't been that guy.
Yeah.
Is there a guy on this team that could
I think
take that
from a fan's
role?
perspective, I think it's going to be the guy you mentioned earlier. It's going to be Connor Garland. He's a guy, as a fan, you can be excited about and happy for when he plays because he works hard every time he's on the ice. You've seen the goal.
Is he
run
taller
off
than
his
you?
face.
Is he taller than you?
Why you gotta go with the short Joe?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to throw you under the bus.
Well,
I
he's
figure I'd rather
definitely-
throw my
I will
neighbor under the
go
bus.
by the program, whatever it
Yeah.
says. I'm sure it's correct.
By the way, Steve, we have a booster chair that Sean can
It's
loan
definitely
you
taller than me.
Wow.
for your
Wow.
Well,
chair.
no, but Steve, I bring that up because I think we, as fans, we like the underdogs.
Yeah.
We like the guys that are maybe smaller in that position
Yeah.
and they exceed expectations.
Yeah, he's smaller stature. That's he's a lot taller when he stands on his wallet now than when he was before.
Yeah, I just
That always
he's
takes
just,
care of that.
He's just a
20
damn
goals
New
helps
England
that.
Patriot
Yeah.
fan.
I know.
Ugh.
I know.
So what will or what has to happen as far as sacrificing some area to get up to speed, as we talked about a little bit earlier, to get there and not get behind that we, as fans, will probably see these next 2 weeks.
I tell you what, this is a tough stretch for the Coyotes. They're going to open with 2 against San Jose. It's a team that hasn't played in 10 months. So for them to open with San Jose, I think is a good thing. I think it's going to take San Jose a while to gel. Their goaltender hasn't seen game situations for nearly a year. So I think that's going to be tough for San Jose. But then they have 4 games against Vegas. And I've got Vegas as the top team in this division right now. I know a lot of people are saying Colorado. I really like Vegas. They play Vegas 4 times, and they need to find a way to get a win there.
So from what I see is Vegas, Colorado,
St. Louis.
and St. Louis. Those are the 3. So are all the other teams, the other 5 teams fighting for that last playoff spot?
Every team right now it has the hopes of winning the division.
Yeah.
But when you look at these teams on paper, those 3 teams are ahead. Like they just are. Experience and talent, those 3 teams are ahead. Now, barring injuries and goaltending, those things can clearly change. But it's 5 teams, in my opinion, 5 teams fighting for one spot, and the Coyotes have to feel today that they're one of the top 2 or 3 for that spot. I like Minnesota as well. I think they've got a good hockey team and made some moves. But the Coyotes can clearly compete. San Jose, Anaheim, LA, you've got to look at those teams.
2 minutes.
Played in 10 months again.
And my last question for you, Steve, is when you look at Tampa Bay being at the top, let's say at 10, I think a lot of fans want to where would you put the Yotes as of now in a comparison? If they're the best of the best at number 10, are they at a 4 or 5? In your mind, where are they in that pecking order?
You'd like to say they're just above a 5 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you made the playoffs, and I think
Sure.
that experience was invaluable to some of these kids. And I think that was important in moving forward. I don't know. We'll see if that offense shows up. If they can get some offense, yeah, then they're above that halfway mark. And you always look in your statistics to get past the halfway mark. In the halfway mark in power play and penalty kill and all of these things, and that will bear out over these first few games. But they critically need a good start. Darcy Kemper's going to have to play extremely well these first 10 games. Antti
Will he
Ranta's
play
gonna
all
get time.
10? Or with this schedule, are they going to?
You're going to have 2 goalies. Every team's going to have 2.
Yeah.
They're going to play. And I'm predicting with COVID and different, things going on and injuries, you're going to play all 3. It's tight. You're going to have 3 goalies. And this team has 3 good goaltenders. So I think that's one of their strengths. Again, we talked about their defending, returning 6 defenders from a year ago and all of their goaltenders. That's their strength, and they need to get their system in place right away. The other thing we didn't talk about that takes a while to get together is gelling a staff. And
That's a good point.
This coaching staff has not worked a bench once. There's no preseason games. There's no. They haven't worked the headsets yet. Who's going to talk to who? They had a
Sean,
Jay Verity
you
day.
can appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who does work the headsets? Corey Stillman and Jay Verity just joined the staff, and it's a dance on the bench.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how quickly they can gel together as a group.
Well, Steve, you know what you need to do after this interview. You need to open my garage door.
I know.
And
First, he's got to catch the
It is-
dog.
it is recycled
And
now.
get my recycle bin
I
back
will.
in. Okay.
I will.
Then he's got to walk his mall dog on top of that.
Yes.
Hey,
A mall dog?
the mall
Oh.
dog, yeah.
Never heard that term.
Well, Steve, you got to let Rock know the things we do for love. Just the things you just do.
I do.
I don't
So
know,
just
man.
He's a great neighbor. Well, he's never home.
Yeah.
So it's
Good thing about it.
Yep.
No police cars out front.
Oh, we got to go to break. Steve, thank you for coming down.
No,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
guys so much.